Disclaimer, the following entire video is sarcastic meta commentary. If you can't read between the lines, get with it or get lost. Your mom gay. Also, bear with me, I have a cold. With the heartfelt question that's been plaguing the community for many years now, if traps are gay or if they aren't, I spent 14 years researching the topic and I realized that it's only the tip of the iceberg. Apparently, they're also transphobic now, which is a level even worse than being gay. So today, I'm going to prove with facts and logic that traps are indeed transphobic, because much like the infinite multiverse, which is impossible to prove with science, there are also infinite genders, which is equally impossible to prove with science, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. So now that scientific bias is out of the way, let's discuss how traps are an attack onto the trans community.
Anime traps aren't gay, that's what I say, baby. Nux Taku, stop saying traps are gay.
A transgender is someone who is biologically male, for example, but feels like they should be a female. And if you see what traps are, it's basically the exact same thing. A trap is a male that knows he's a male and identifies as a male too, but at the same time, he looks kind of feminine. So if you're gonna make it your life purpose to get triggered at everything, of course traps should be able to trigger you too, because even though it's a male in a male's body, since it's low-key looking like a female for comedic purposes, which I personally find a little bit tacky, but that's not for the discussion here. Clearly, it was an attack against the intellectually superior triggered community, and since they weren't triggered enough by other things that were going on, they had to make up the word trap to be a trigger as well, which I believe makes sense, because a word like trap actually has a negative connotation. For example, when you hear, "Oh no, I've been trapped," now that doesn't sound like a compliment, does it? It sounds like he's upset that the trap was sprung altogether. So to animate traps are a negative connotation, like when you attack your opponent's life points directly and he activates a trap card.
You activated my trap card!
You're obviously upset and would rather that he didn't activate the trap, proving once again that the word trap is not only a bad thing, but also tries to trick you. Maybe your opponent was bluffing with a spell card set on his side of the field, and then boom, you assumed its gender when in actuality it was a trap card, a completely different gender of card. And assuming that it was a spell card may very well have been your downfall. So as you can see, YuGiOh is basically the incarnation of karma in this world. By the fact that you wrongly assumed its identity, you were punished. So since the word trap is used to discuss anime guys that were born to look like girls, even though biologically they're guys and emotionally they're guys, the word trap, a word based purely on outward appearances, is vile, disgusting, and someone should mystical space typhoon that ass away right now, because trap is kind of like tricking you. As I've mentioned, it's only based on appearances. So why can we judge a book by its cover? It's true that it looks like a girl, but calling it a girl and then it being a boy, which is the most common joke by traps, is an assault to their gender instantaneously. The word trap implies a trick, as if we were tricked by physical appearance. Now, this has nothing to do with transgender people, but at the same time, if it would apply, that would be transphobic, and therefore, even though it didn't apply, we should treat it as if it did apply, because it would be able to be applied by misogynistic cis white males.
As a cis white male, I'm inclined to agree with what Nux is saying. Yep, I'm a misogynist. I'm a male and I'm, what can I say? What can I say about this? What can I say?
I personally get triggered by traps in a different way than the usual discussion, because the common trick involving traps is when your main character sees this hot girl, air quotes, and is in love with her, dab, and then realizes she's actually a dude for comic relief. I'm gonna put my foot down right here and now and attack back with facts and logic, because that entire joke set up in any anime anime, which never worked on me, by the way, because I'm over level 9,000 woke, is based on the fact that you see a girl and you assume that she's a girl, and then it turns out she wasn't a girl. You're surprised, but once again, someone who's over level 9,000 woke, like me, isn't even affected, because even if someone looks like a girl because of seemingly female body parts that protrude from their chest, I would never assume that they're a girl, even in anime. And that's not just because traps are frequent and prevalent everywhere, but it's because, for all I know inside, they're actually a dude. So really, it's not the word trap that's a trans slur, it's anyone who's trapped by the trap that's transphobic. Now, I know this is a bit off tangent, but once I'm here, can I also complain about the wiki for every different series ever? Because even before the characters selected their preferred gender in the anime, the clearly transphobic wiki already puts a gender on them, as if that could go by biological appearance. Effing Nazis. I'm looking forward to the time that's approaching rapidly where all humor for one reason or another is banned. The psychological reason behind what makes any comedy or jokes humorous is a combination between the benign violation theory and a lack of predictability. There needs to be a level of violation against the proper, straightforward unfolding of the universe we inhabit. And if there's no violation in any way, then there's no humor. There's a reason it's called benign violation, because granted, every humor needs to be a violation of some sort or it's just not funny, and it always needs an element of surprise too, but it should be also benign, meaning non-triggering to anyone. The less surprise there is in the joke, the more desensitized we are to that medium, which is why I think traps in anime are amazing for society, because once it gets considered as a natural law of order in the world that there are traps everywhere, transgender people should feel more in place, and we should stop assuming everyone's gender by appearances. It shouldn't even be considered humorous at this point. If it's humorous to you that it's actually a dude, that means you assumed its gender. Comedy is basically sexism at this point, which is why used up cliches get boring after a while. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that being transgender is cliche or anything, because that doesn't make any sense. But what I'm saying is Japan foresaw our societal problems of today and started implementing traps in their medium, which were honestly never funny, but now completely lost all sense of appeal aside from people trying to troll their friends, getting them to say that Astolfo is sexy and then calling them gay.
Gay!
But now, here's where the issue gets blown way out of proportion. One of the jokes about traps are to make people get ashamed that they were attracted to a non-woman, and they get to be shamed for being gay. This proves that society, who shames people for being gay, is not only transphobic, but homophobic too. People don't like the word trap because it's a slur for trans people, even though anime traps aren't trans at all, being that they don't feel like women in a man's body, they're just men in men's bodies, and just look feminine. So honestly, anyone that gets triggered by the word trap, which doesn't refer to transgender people, is technically subconsciously falsely assuming the gender of every transgender person. Now, if a transgender person themselves gets triggered by the word trap, then they just assumed their own gender wrong. And even though they did, they still have a full reason to be triggered. It's a weird dichotomy between getting triggered and being in the right, because I personally believe that everyone who gets triggered over anything, especially for the sake of other people, is really doing the world a favor and brings our goal of destroying all comedy forever even closer, because comedy is bad and shouldn't be allowed since it's always a violation of something, and violations of things are bad. And so since violations are bad and comedy needs some form of psychological violation in order to be funny, the sooner we do away with comedy altogether, the better for society. So now that I've actually proved that getting triggered over everything is better for society, and that transgender people who think the word trap is a trans slur are secretly transphobic transgenders against themselves since they assume their own gender's wrong, I'd like to point out how everyone says and argues about if traps are gay or not. Well, that would depend on the trap. Did you just assume their sexual orientation, asking if the trap is gay? And even so, that you actually mean the question to be not if the trap is gay, but if the person attracted initially to the trap is gay, then is there something wrong with that or something? I think the internet should shut down because someone's getting triggered, and honestly, it gets me very triggered about it. which is a good thing, as I've just proven. Thank you for watching this video. I'm very glad I got to shed some light on the entire situation, on how everyone is secretly a bad person, even when they're trying to do good. Please subscribe for more meta commentary garbage videos. And if you like this style, feel free to check out Soy Boy Theories, link in the description. Toodaloo, please don't hate me. Also, if this video triggered you, thank you. That was my point exactly. And if that triggered you, that's just hilarious.